You're on.
Hey, happy Thursday, everybody. This is week number 6 of Springboard at Home. This is a special week because we have Mr. Brad Fishman's birthday week. Uh, Tuesday night we did a little Zoom party, although we didn't have the bottle service and the normal Brad Fishman treatment at the time. And hopefully several of you guys got to join. For those that don't know me yet, because we've been doing these every week, every Thursday, I'm Ryan Hicks. Super grateful and humble actually to be a part of the franchise community because this has been a crazy time. People are rallying together. Business is getting back open, so it's an exciting time. And we're just grateful for having great folks that are coming on, like our guest this week. It's a real treat to have them. I'm going to toss it over to the birthday boy and Lane for a couple of quick top of the house comments, if you have any, and then we'll introduce our rock star guests. Brad and Lane.
It's kind of hard being 28 all over again, but it's been interesting having your birthday for many of us to have it during this coronavirus. But we're excited that Edward and Anthony are with us, and we're excited as more and more of the country opens. And I joked around with Lane today. I said, pretty soon all of us are going to be back in the office. He goes, but long as we're getting people interested, getting phenomenal speakers like we have here, and really helping out the franchise family, we're always happy to do this.
And I mean, I would just add that, we appreciate you folks tuning into this. I know that people have webinar seizures in the middle of the night about having to watch these, but these are the comments and the notes that we get afterwards that thank us for at least trying to get a push pin in the map in terms of where people are this week and next week. Brad was like, when are we going to stop doing it? I'm like, when it stops changing every week. I said, I promise you there'll be something next week and the week after. And then, as people get open and get started. So I'm grateful for these folks. I hope folks are checking in on our switchboard portion of the Franchisors.com website. We are amassing more and more resumes as people, I think, learn their fate or decide that they're going to take matters in their own hands, and more job postings as franchisors make critical employment decisions and bringing people back. We hope to have a repository because even if we don't call people back, they're still part of the family and community, and we'd love to see them get placed elsewhere. They're people we spend a lot of time training in most cases, and so we're grateful for that. We're also our plans are still to go forward with Springboard with a slightly more remote options event, but we're going to do a live event in Philly. As long as we're not in code red or orange or whatever the new color palette is that week. And we'll give you more information on that. I don't want to take any more time from these folks because I thought this content in the prep call, I saw that being promoted on social media, that this is really fun and good, and we appreciate your senses of humor and your candor and your volunteerism for this. Thank you, guys. Ryan, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, so jumping in here, excited for this one. By way of introduction, I think most in the audience will know these folks. Anthony Geisler, he's the founder and CEO of Xponential Brands, absolute character, phenomenal entrepreneur and operator. And we also have Edward Logan. He's the CEO of Sport Clips, someone that I have a ton of respect for. He's shown amazing leadership during this tough time for his brand that has nearly 2,000 units. So guys, thank you both for being here and welcome to Springboard at Home.
Of course. Edward's a character too. I don't know why I'm getting pinned with that. He's a good time.
Yeah, especially with
up today.
The background that we saw with the bobblehead Gordon Logan doll with the mask on it. That was kind of funny. Maybe we get a celebrity to look at that. But just by way of formal introduction, both of you guys, Anthony, we'll start with you. What are the brands under Xponential Fitness? Introduce yourself and your brands briefly.
Sure. You're gonna make me try and name all 8 of my children and not screw it up. We have a wall here in the office and it has all the brands along the wall. And people are like, "Oh, it's so great!" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like putting pictures of your kids, so you don't forget one. You just kind of try and do them in order." But no, Xponential is the parent that owns brands like Club Pilates and Pure Barre and Cycle Bar and AKT Dance and Stride. Probably forgetting some. Let's see. Cycle Bar, Stretch Lab, Row House, AKT, Club Pilates, Pure Barre, Stride. I think that's them. My cheat wall over here. But Yeah, so we've got about 1,700 open units, about 3,000 signed in the U.S. We're in 10 countries, about 3,900 total franchises, kind of awarded across the world. So we went from 1,700 units down to one open, and it was my goal not to hit zero. So we're good with that. We kept one unit open in Nebraska, which was nice. It's going to be my favorite state now going forward, and so that's where we're sitting today. So happy to be here.
Beautiful. Edward?
Yeah, Edward Logan, Sport Clips Haircuts. We were very similar. We went from almost 1,900 units to zero in about 2 weeks. We've gone from zero back to 1,100 in the last 2.5 weeks. Expect to be up to around 1,500 in about a week and a half here, and expect a very low closure rate. So part of the more interesting pieces for us is, salons and barbershops have been a bit of a media target through this. So it's been, particularly interesting from that regard, and how we've had to handle that as well.
Yeah, that takes me to the first topic here. Obviously, a lot of different places are starting to open up. I think you, Edward, you took 200 or some odd units live in the period of 1 week in Texas, and you mentioned now at 1,100 open. What are you seeing on the front lines as you open up the front doors? What's going on out there?
Yeah, for us, what we're seeing is huge pent up demand. People haven't been getting haircuts, or they tried it at home, which is great publicity for us. I saw a lot of jacked up haircuts on social media. It was like free advertising.
COVID cut.
Fantastic. Yeah, COVID cut.
Yeah, COVID cuts.
Yeah, that could be a brand in that somewhere, maybe.
That's your next franchise.
Yeah, right. That'll be our number 2, maybe. Hardest part has been serving the demand due to some of the sanitation requirements of local or state governments, and restaffing the stores, bringing everybody back, oftentimes on short notice when they have to make accommodations to come back. So if we could capture all the demand more efficiently, it would have been even better. So that's been interesting and at times stressful. We have seen a lot of stores and salons in the industry not open up at all, not reopen, or seen a lot that just weren't prepared to open in a timely fashion when they were allowed to, when the dates got moved up. A lot of salons were just not prepared with the processes or equipment to do it. And so we captured a lot of market share, a lot of new clients that were new to our entire brand coming in because they were effectively displaced clients, and same with stylists. So a lot of displaced stylists out there. And so what we're seeing is our stylists and clients are kind of making their buying decisions and employment decisions with fresh eyes a little bit. So we've seen some good new introductions there. And in terms of clients and stylists, we've seen attitudes towards safety and sanitation vary quite a bit. Seeing it vary by person, just by individual. Some people are, still truly fearful. Some people don't care at all. And it does seem to be very different by region as well. But what we've tried to take into account is that whether someone is truly fearful of the virus or not, taking extra steps for them it shows them you care about them regardless of whether they're fearful or not. And we've seen a lot of appreciation on that front. We feel like the team members and franchisees need to know you care about them even more than the clients in some cases.
Anthony, I know that you might be a little fearful to get out, but what are you seeing out there on the front lines? What does the footprint look like for you guys? You went down to one. What are you seeing? Probably a lot of the same.
Yeah. Hey, I haven't left my office in 2.5 months. I've been sequestered here. You should see I've been cutting my own hair. Edward's been giving me some tips. So I've become real handy with the shaver. But look, for us in the fitness business, I think, hair salons took it, restaurants, bars, gyms. We saw a lot of this that, we're a dirty place and everything you touch is dirty. In the boutique space, we kind of had to decouple this boutique space of gyms from, big box facilities, right? And not to slam my boys in the big box part of the fitness industry, but you know, in a big box, people come in and, you know, they get on a treadmill, they lift a dumbbell, they may go over and, you know, use some piece of equipment, and, you know, take a dip in the pool, a shower, and leave. For us, you know, people come in, they get on a reformer, they work out, and they go. So it's really kind of from car to equipment and back to the car in most cases. Not a lot of hanging out. They're only 1,500 to 2,000 square feet. And, you know, we have 10 to 12 people in, you know, in classes at a Club Pilates, and kind of our max is in a cycle bar where we have 50. And so I would love to say our utilization pre-COVID was, you know, it was always slammed and always packed, but the reality was, you know, that it wasn't every class with 60 classes a week, you know, that every class isn't always full. So, you know, some of this impact as people have been coming back, we've had limited numbers. You know, utilization is high of our limited base that we're allowed to have. That limited number is different, you know, all across the country. You've got, you know, governors, state board of health, you've got boards of supervisors, you have mayors, you have law enforcement that either enforces or doesn't enforce the law that's made up by the 3 or 4 groups that are supposedly in charge of the dirt where our stores sit. So definitely a lot of the wild, wild west out there. So, you know, as we reopen, we got about 450 open now. We'll have about 1,000 open by the end of the month. We got another 500-600 that are opening, you know, kind of while we speak. So a lot of reopening going on. And, you know, so we just kind of created a toolkit for franchisees, you know, as all these different precautions are different in different cities and states and counties. And so, you know, we have everything from, you know, air filters that, you know, suck the air out, put it through a virus filter, put it back in. You know, we have room foggers because our places are, like I said, only 2,000 square feet. So we're able to fog rooms, do that multiple times a day at a very, you know, decent cost for franchisees. You know, we're limiting the space that's in there. So in some cases, you know, in some states, it's a, you know, mandated minimum of 10. Some it's, you know, 1 per every 50 square feet, 1 for every 150 square feet. In Illinois, everybody can work out in a park. You know, so it's, you know, it's just a bit different everywhere across the country, right? And then, you know, you have governors saying you can do something and mayors saying that the governors aren't allowed. And then, you know, senators saying the governors and the mayors aren't in charge, they are. So, you know, we're out there following the best protocols we can, trying to look across the, you know, almost, you know, all 50 states that we, you know, do our gyms in and our modalities in. And so, you know, we're still building a plane while we're flying it. Just like we were into the COVID storm, we'll be doing kind of coming out of it as well. But, you know, we definitely are drawing a line in the sand at the end of May that, you know, April and May was COVID, and now, you know, June is kind of back to business. So that's where our head's at as a company.
Yeah, expanding on that. So on the topic of, you know, a lot of folks and brands, some people that we've had here on Springboard at Home don't want to be the first to open. And with Edward, with the, you know, your remarks about gaining market share in this time, what are your thoughts on the first to reopen, and what are some words of encouragement for some folks that might be apprehensive about that?
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. You know, plan ahead, be prepared, but just do it because there are clients, there are people out there who want to go back to living normal. They're ready to get a haircut. They're ready to go to the gym. They're out there. They're going to go somewhere. So if you go ahead and open when you're allowed to, you're going to be a better option for people and people who may not have been in before. You're going to bring back not only your own clients or customers, but maybe some others, and have an opportunity to retain them. And if you extend this thinking out, there is never going to be a better time or a perfect time or a 100% risk-free time. This thing's going to be with us for a while. So be prepared, be ready to open as soon as you can, and just do it.
Yeah, I think mine's along the exact same lines. Like, we gotta, you know, COVID's here to stay, most likely. You know, it becomes flu Q or whatever it is, right? So it's going to be a part of what we're doing. And, you know, I think it made a lot of sense to take some time off and sort of sit on the sidelines and say, hey, you know, what is COVID? How is this going to affect us? You know, how's this going to affect hospitals? What do we need to look at as far as cleanliness? But, you know, we've done that over the last 8 weeks now. And the protocols are in place. We know what we're doing. And so we're very bullish in getting stores open and aggressive in doing it. It's not it's not in a careless way or in a we don't care way. But at some point it's time to start, heading back to where we were. And, there is all that pent up demand that is there. We're seeing what we call NMS, which is new membership sales. So just new members that we haven't seen before. There's clearly people out there in our industry that have figured out that, health and wellness is their mission, it's their priority. It's not the FDA's or anybody else's to tell you how to live your life, that, your immune system is actually what fights the coronavirus, and diet and exercise is a part of that. So is a great haircut. But that's, that's what we got to go do. And so people are out starting to figure that out. I mean, you can look on your own sidewalks in your community, and there's definitely people out there that you can tell haven't worked out in the last 10 or 20 years that are now getting out. They're taking walks. They're trying to find something that is heavy to lift in their garages and just kind of getting back to it. And so, we're happy to be there as a support for that. Like I said, not doing it in a careless way, but doing it in a pre-programmed, precautious way and following the guidelines, but still doing it and getting it done.
You guys both run terrific organizations. And so I don't want to get too deep in, because I know you guys have really, the cleanliness and worried about that is something I for better what I expect from both of you guys. So the question becomes, and I kind of look at my children for a lot of the things I talk about. My younger son lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. As soon as they came off last weekend, first thing he goes, the 3 things he wanted to do: gym, haircut, restaurant. So how are you dealing with all the guidelines? You mentioned Illinois before. Illinois has come out and said next week we'll do that. But basically they also said as the state police are not going to do an enforcement of this. So how are you dealing with the 25%, 50%? How many can be in a location? With being in so many municipalities, that's got to be so hard to keep up with.
It is. We put together an internal task force here of people that literally are just tracking everything as it happens. We started having calls with the franchisees. It was kind of State of the Union that I did every 48 hours. And we jump on a Zoom call for, 30, 45 minutes and kind of update them, outside the municipalities, right? And those updates, look how many reversions of the PPP we went through, right? And, tax write-offs and all these other things. So we kind of mobilized our real estate department to, be in charge of dealing with landlords and their real estate investment trusts across the country, because they weren't spending a bunch of time opening new locations at that point, right? They were still happening, but they had some bandwidth. We took our finance teams and we made them experts on PPP, tax issues, and different things on the finance side. And then we assembled, a couple presidents of our brands and some other people to follow the guidelines and interact with franchisees to see, what are you hearing and seeing on the ground? Because that might be different than what we're getting, the news we're getting in California, right? And it was always changing, and we rode the ride. So it's like the governor comes out in Georgia and says, we're opening. And then, the mayor says of Atlanta, nope, the governor's an idiot. We're not going to do that. And, everybody saw the now, famous mayor of Las Vegas. I think she's become an icon where you're just kind of wondering if she's even alive. So, you've got the governor and the mayor there. And so, we've just seen so much of this stuff going around, and we're consuming so much media around it. So, the franchisees, you've got ones that are really aggressive that are like, hey, it's not legal to open, but law enforcement isn't going to enforce it. And they're openly saying that. So what is law without law enforcement? I'm opening up. And then, you've got people, we had somebody call in one of our locations last week and said that we were spreading the coronavirus. And, the sheriff showed up and said, hi, I'm here because we got a call that you're spreading the coronavirus. Are you guys doing that? And we said, no, we're not doing that. He looked around and said, well, I don't see the coronavirus here, so I think my job is done. And he walked out, right? So, you just got this from the far left to the far right and everything in between happening. So it's definitely a challenge to figure it out. Definitely, like I said, putting the plane together while we're flying it. And, just kind of taking it day by day or maybe hour by hour as stuff changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Very similar on our part. We immediately formed a franchisee task force on multiple things. This included, we actually started our ramp up plans. We started implementing new sanitation protocols before we even started ramping down, and we started our ramp up planning really right as we started ramping down. And for us, keeping team members and stylists and clients safe is core to our values, not just the government requirements. But Anthony's right, just keeping track of local and state guidelines everywhere has been a task. What we did, and we're fortunate because cleanliness and sanitation is thoroughly taught in cosmetology and barber schools. So we're already a very sanitation-based industry. So our people get it. And so it was easy to train some of these things. But we created a Sport Clips Clean certification that all of the franchisees team members go through before they come back, which is digital, e-learning, virtual teaching, as well as in-person pep rallies that each store can execute or needs to execute in order to make sure they're following the new processes, making sure everything is clean. And we worked really quickly with suppliers to make sure they had the stuff they needed, which has been a challenge, I think for some brands in reopening. And we created the policy that even if we have a supplier, there's likely to be a bottleneck or delays. So we immediately took action, and before we'd even closed the last store, we had 3 suppliers for every piece of PPE that we would need, knowing that some would have delays or bottlenecks or whatever. And throughout this, while everybody was shut down, we built an entire training program specifically around sanitation and new processes in the stores to handle this. So our certification, our clean certification, covered most of the government requirements, and then it was just a matter of chasing down the one-offs and the unique situations in each area.
Yeah. So on the topic of innovation, I think both of you have several examples and things that have naturally occurred from all this, but I don't want to use the word adjustments, but what innovations have come out of this that you see making you stronger moving forward? Edward, I'm thinking of an example that we chatted a few days ago about where you had a program that it was going to take you a long time to build out, and you put it in fast gear, and Anthony, you the same. So what innovations have come out of this that you believe give you a stronger position in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We took everything that we were thinking about getting done over the next year and said, how can we get this done in 2 months that was relevant to the situation? So there are 3 things for us that really accelerated. In addition to the obvious, we're doing Zooms like crazy and using technology more than we ever had. That goes without saying. But we also rapidly implemented a new way of alignment and objectives tracking across the company. So while everyone was remote, we could stay aligned, keep communicating, make sure we were achieving what we needed to achieve. That was previously going to be more of a 1-year implementation. We took our client-facing technology and worked with our suppliers to rapidly implement some new codes, some new adjustment to, in our case, how you calculate wait times, the limitations on how clients are able to check in through our online platforms and our app. And we were able to make changes in conjunction with those suppliers in about a month, mostly before stores reopened, that would accommodate what we assumed would be pent-up demand. And we took kind of a high-level outline of virtual training that we planned to implement and was going to take about a year, and got a rough first version out in about a month and a half, 2 months, partly related to that sanitation training, so everybody could have access to the training they needed. No way we could get physical people out everywhere in the country at the same time. So we implemented a rough version of that and said, complete is better than perfect. Let's get this done and get it in people's hands.
Yeah, and I think for us, we obviously shifted to the digital space on the workout front. That was something we were planning to do already and launch in Q2. So we kind of got a bit lucky that, we'd been working on that over the last year. But one thing that kind of came to us was discovery days, right? And so, you think about it, for us, everybody does their discovery days different and how they handle franchisee candidates. And we used to fly our people in, put them up in hotels. It was a 2-day discovery day. They went and took a workout, went to dinner with the team, and then came in the office the next day. And so we automatically went to Zoom discovery days. which allowed us, we typically sell about 70, 80 franchises a month. And, we took a dip in selling 20, 25, 30 franchises, right? Which is not as good as 70 or 80, but it's also not zero. So something was better than nothing. And, selling 20, 25 in a pandemic is probably better than what most people are doing. But we kind of figured out through that process that, we had this bucket of people that, couldn't fit into the dates for our discovery days. And, because we have 8 brands and they're 2 days long, 16 of your 20 work days every month is a discovery day going on. And, we have 3-day trainings. So we have a 3-day training for general managers, for franchisees, and for instructors. So that's 9 days of training across 8 brands. That's 72 days of training inside of 20 work days. So every day in our physical office, there's pretty much a discovery day, a bus of people here, plus 3 or 4 trainings that were going on. And so we digitized that, entire discovery day process and kind of have it in a kit now for each of the brands, and shot all the videos, me touring people in the office, me doing Q&A and all that. And now I just pop in at the end. So I've got this video where it's like, hey, now we're open for questions. And then I hit the little video button, and like, magician, I pop up and it's like, hey, how was it? Whatever. But these people basically watched a movie for 8 hours while I got to work. And then I just pop in and I'm like Houdini, I answer questions. It's like 15, 20 minutes and I'm out. Well, now we can replicate that, right? Now we can do that. If we have somebody that says, hey, I'm in Chicago, I really want to come out for Discovery Day, but the 7th and 8th doesn't work. Like, what day works for you? Well, the 10th works. Great. Well, you can watch TV on the 10th, and then we just got to have 15 minutes of Anthony to pop up on the 10th, right? And so we now know that we'll be able to get, back to our regular in-house Discovery Days. They're always going to be best in person. But on a go-forward basis, we kind of have Discovery Days in a can as well, where we just need some people to pop on. And so that's been good too. So, we look at the silver lining of it. It's like, hey, if we could do 70, 80 before, we're going to go back to doing those same 70 or 80, but we should be able to close some virtual Discovery Days as well. So, we're calling those VDDs that, we're able to do now.
Edward, are you doing virtual Discovery Days, or are you still pressing forward on the development side?
Yes, we usually only do one Discovery Day per month, but we did something similar, maybe a little less sophisticated, but we did our first virtual Discovery Day via Zoom, and we sent out materials ahead. We shortened it up, gave ourselves back more time, and it was really pretty effective. We sold franchises during the shutdown as well, which, to be honest, I was shocked at beforehand, didn't expect it, but it worked out great, and it saved a bunch of time, was equally effective for them and for us.
Yeah, Anthony, one thing I want to touch on. So you're obviously, a lot of the brands that are under your umbrella, or maybe all of them, are membership based. Did you cut off memberships at any point? And what other, I'm familiar with a couple of things you did digitally, but what did that look like?
Yeah, we never cut people off. We just really looked at this as a shift from the physical world to the digital world. If people wanted to freeze or they wanted to cancel, we facilitated those just like we do when, we're kind of in the same 4-wall experience. So you saw some media around some gym companies that kind of charged everybody and then shut down and said, hey, if you want to cancel, you'll have to cancel when we're open, and continue to charge. And you saw some litigation around that. We continue to stay open. We just kind of shifted, much like we did at our corporate office. Our 250 employees just went home with their computers, and everybody began to work remotely. We're doing the same thing with franchisees. Franchisees were still selling retail virtually. They were doing Wine Wednesdays, where the owner was in the studio trying on outfits, and all these women logged in on Zoom calls, and they all drank wine together while they tried on outfits, and they sold stuff and shipped it to them. So we still continue to sell retail, continue to do the workouts, in a virtual environment. So that was kind of the shift for us. We saw very little cancellations, which was good. We saw a lot of freezes between the 22nd and the 27th of March. But the freezes were fine, because for us, it was like, hey, we still want to be a part of the community. Virtual gig for us doesn't work. We don't see value in that, but we want to come back when the physical world comes back. And so now, as we've been switching people on, we have this, mass amount of unfreezing going on that's happening. And so that was just the initial shift for us, was let's just convert from physical to digital, and now we're in a physical digital kind of conversion, because there's still people as we open our four-wall that are afraid to come back. So we're seeing them utilize the digital while the four-wall is actually going on. So it's allowing us to service kind of two buckets of members at the same time.
Yeah. Lane, if you have anything, feel free to pipe in. One other question that I have kind of on the topic of leading through this tough time. Gordon, Edward, you said whenever we were on a call the other day that this is kind of a time where folks can really gain a lot of respect internally and grow as a leader, etc. We have a lot of people in this audience that run emerging brands as well as large brands, but kind of on the topic of your leadership through this time, what does some of the communication cadence look like, and could you just speak generally to leading through this?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in crazy times like this where the pace accelerates and there are lots of unknowns, people need that guidance, right? That leadership. And, there are a lot of cliche ways to say that, but people need somebody to point the ship, right? Steer the ship. And they need confidence, and they need a sense of calm, right? And they need to have confidence that, hey, we're going to come out of this. We may not know exactly what that looks like yet, but let's everybody take a deep breath and move forward, together as a team. So we immediately got in touch with everybody, took our communication to 11. Communication calls that we maybe used to have once a month or once a quarter. Now we're once to twice a week. Our weekly internal meetings went from once a week to at least once a day. Our advisory committee went from once a month to 2 times per week. We created multiple task force with franchisees from around the country to work on different projects. One's sanitation, one's PPL application, one PPL forgiveness, several task forces to get team leaders, which is what we call franchisees, get franchisees engaged. It helps people focus on looking forward versus, drowning in the misery of shutting down your life's work in 2 weeks. And really gave everybody that sense that, hey, we're in good hands. We know what we're doing. We're getting communication, we're getting guidance, and it's not going to be perfect, but we're better off than most, and we're all getting through this together. So we adapted to that really immediately, even before we shut down stores. We've gotten really good feedback on how that's gone. And quite frankly, I've been very impressed by our internal support team and our franchisees, and quite grateful by everyone's reaction, because I think it's obviously very emotional to see your entire business going to zero. And even though logically, at some point you'll reopen, and it wouldn't be logical to think the entire hair industry or gym industry or restaurant industry is going to be completely gone. Emotionally, you're seeing everything shut down and go to zero revenue. It's very emotional. So making sure the communication is good, making sure there are action plans, making sure you're being very forward-looking, was all critical for us in staying tight and together as a team. And again, I think my reaction was simply, I was very grateful for everybody's reaction and optimism through it, even though there were tough times.
Hey, Ryan. Everybody, Anthony, go in? Okay, I'll jump in after that.
Go for it.
You want to take a shot at it, Anthony?
No, you go at it, Lane.
All right, so I was just going to ask, I was looking at one of the questions that came up during the session here, and I think it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room. I mean, invariably, some customer or some employee of some franchisee or some group of that complement will invariably at some point assert that they got COVID-19 doing the activity that they've engaged in with you, Anthony, or getting their haircut. And Ashley asks, are you planning on closing? I would ask a broader question, like, have you talked about that? Is there a protocol? It's sort of like the thing nobody wants to, they want to hear somebody else who opened earlier to have dealt with. But what are you guys thinking about with that?
I mean, look, we from our standpoint, we already went through that as we went into this. As this coronavirus started to happen, my brand presidents and team members, employees started getting phone calls where it's like, hey, so and so has the coronavirus, or I just got a call from a member that says they had the coronavirus and they just worked out. And so what I did, because I knew there's a lot of emotion around this and a lot of fear, is I said, look, 100% of those calls go to me. That's it. I am Chief Justice, Judge, Executioner, all of that on these. You hear any of that, forward them to me. And I will tell you 99.9% of the time, these people did not have the coronavirus, right? It was, they had a friend who was with somebody who had flu-like symptoms or whatever it might be. And so it didn't really happen a lot, right? Given the percentages. We had one instructor who had flown to another country after she left the location and got the coronavirus. We had one franchisee who believed they had it and eventually got tested and had it, right? But we didn't have that situation where it really happened, but it was a good test case for us to see how it happened. And so what we did in cases where we thought people could potentially even have had it or been infected, we were able to notice everyone, because what's great is if, we know where that person was on what machine, we know the people around them, we know the people there before them and after them. So we were able to notice people. We did do that in some locations to say, we believe that someone may have been in contact with somebody who may have the coronavirus, who was in class prior to you, right? Some of these emails that went out kind of sounded ridiculous because it was like, the game of telephone, right? You may have been next to this person who may have talked to somebody who may one day have possibly had a cough, but we wanted to err, on the right side of that. So we noticed people, wherever we needed to. That's our protocol on a go forward basis. If there is a suspected person, a suspected outbreak, I dig into that. I contact the person directly. Find out what's going on, find out if they actually did test positive for the coronavirus, if they even got tested for it. Because, I think the number one thing I hear is, oh, I already had it back in October, or whatever. So a lot of these people believe they already had it, but they weren't tested for it. And so, who knows, right? So it's still a little bit of the unknown out there. But our protocol is that those actually go to me, because I want to make sure there's one point of contact that is handled efficiently and effectively. It's very rare that would even happen. But yes, if we had that situation, we would deep clean, sanitize, do those kind of things, notify. We would shut down during that time, and then we would reopen.
Edward?
Yeah, no,
Sort of same
very,
question.
very similar. There's no way to avoid liability 100%. There are going to be so many retail locations of any kind, franchise or otherwise, hair gyms, restaurants. There are going to be so many lawsuits. It's going to take years and years to process it through the courts. It's coming. Hopefully, some legislation around that will come through. Seems likely that it probably will. Seems logical, but logical doesn't always make it likely in DC. So obviously that would be the hope, but make sure your insurance is in order and make sure you're doing everything you reasonably can. I think a lot of these things and a lot of case law as it goes through is going to be based on were you actually careless or negligent, or did life just happen, right? Even if it is true, it's going to be hard to prove that it's true in the first place. But if you did everything you could, it's hard to. I think a lot of the case law is going to come out on retailer side in that case. So we're taking it very seriously. We're doing everything we can. We're tracking down the details of the case, just like Anthony, and staying on top of it. Very similar story on ramp down. We had one manager who had it, one client confirmed to have had it, one franchisee and one franchisee's family member, and then about 1,000 people that had a cough or had the flu, or one thought for sure it was coronavirus and it was meningitis. A bunch of people thought they had it, and none of them, only those 4 happened to actually be a real case.
Yeah, I think, Edward, something that you can point to is you literally built out the certified clean program. You have a logo for it. It's very buttoned up. It's documented. So you're showing that you're doing anything and everything possible to follow the protocols. One question that we had submitted upon registration for Anthony: how do you envision the future of group fitness?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be evolving as we go forward. My personal belief is that we'll get back to where we were. That may take 12 months or whatever it might be. That may take a therapy or a vaccine for some people. But I do know that, there'll be people that never come back, right? That's true. There'll be new members that we never would have seen if it wasn't for the pandemic that are now saying, hey, I want to get in the gym. I want to take care of myself. So, I think that part will be a wash. Today, kind of brand by brand, it's a bit different, and in Club Pilates, our reformers are already 6 feet apart. So, there's no real change there as people come back. And something like Cycle Bar, where you've got, bikes that are close together, that's probably going to, split up for a while and spread for a while. For us, even in that, people used to, as they book bikes, they would all book in packs sort of around each other. No one wanted to be in the back left corner. Some people did. They would book the back left corner because they didn't like people in general. And then people would try and be in packs. People always like to be the North Star right in front of the instructor, those kind of things. So we'll be blocking out some of those bikes. Doesn't hurt utilization except in our, 100% utilized classes. So we'll be blocking out bikes where, if you would have had 20 of the 50 people all in front before, now those 20 might be spread across because we'll block some bikes out. And I think as people kind of get back into the new normal, this will be something that, we'll be fine with. We always had good spacing between people. We were always very clean. It was something people expected as the experience in boutique fitness, as opposed to, something else in a big box or, some other location. So a lot of these protocols we already had. So I don't think there's going to be a lot changing on our side. I mean, you've seen where some gym companies in, parts of the world are putting these massive, plexiglass glasses between treadmills or things of that nature. And so I think that's kind of the far one side, and then the other side is doing nothing. So like I said, there's 3 groups. You've got the people that are going to continue to stay in their house and probably do the virtual part of our business. You have the wait and seer people in the middle. They're going to wait and see sort of what happens. Like as Georgia opens up, coronavirus cases continue to decline as gyms continue to open. So people may look at that type of data, and that may make them start to feel more comfortable coming back. They follow the members' Facebook page. They see people are working out. They see that people aren't getting sick. They see that we're taking precautions, and then they slowly start to move back. So I think that's kind of what we'll see is, a new normal for a bit. It'll be, a lot of protocols and quasi-physical digital. And then I think we'll see that dial start to dial back, and we'll get there a lot faster with some kind of vaccine or some kind of therapy that, that is recommended.
Anthony, has it changed the business model? Like, I think some of the people in terms of what group fitness, in terms of the profitability and having the people, I guess in places where you're using excess or losing excess capacity, it doesn't matter, but is there a way to make this distancing and numbers work and get people to come in at those time periods? Is there enough time periods?
There is, and it's a bit different, right? There's not one person governing the United States that's mandating something is going to work, and then we work out that business model, right? There's parts of the country that it is one person for every 50 square feet, and there's one where it's one for every 150, and there's some where it's just a blanketed 10, right? So at a reformer, when we have 12 reformers in a location, you say we can have 10 of 12. Doesn't really kill the business model. You're not killing a lot of utilization except maybe Monday night at 5 o'clock or something, right? Where you tell me I can have 10 of 52 bikes on a Monday, that becomes a different situation, right? And so in those cases, we've been increasing the amount of classes and shortening the duration a bit. So we've been playing with stuff like that where you had these, higher capacities with 50 bikes and you have these lower pieces, right? So capacity is high enough when it's one person for every 7x7 square. Because in a 7x7 square, that's fine. We can still have, kind of 1.5 bikes, right? Kind of type situation. So models are a bit different brand by brand, and then, also city by city, county by county. So, we're working out all those different permutations right now against a business model. But we're optimistic that, we're finding those and conquering those in each of the different parts of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. So many variations. I think one of the things that is really obvious to us is we've got to trust our franchisees to come up with some of these solutions, share best practices internally. A lot of good things have come from that, and just move quickly, right? Be innovative. We have changed the way that our wait times, our walk-ins work, changed the way we scheduled, changed hours, added non-technical, non-stylist coordinators who stand outside, process clients in and out. And we've seen some good results. Out of 1,000 stores that were open last week, or really a little less than 1,000 was open last week, 100 of them set all-time sales records.
Wow.
Even with diminished capacity to serve the demand. So innovation and quick innovation is helpful.
Are there enough time slots to get folks? I mean, were you 7 days a week to begin with, or have you picked up days now?
We're running crazy wait times. We had to overhaul the technology to handle the capacity and uncork the limits so that people could check in, 4 hours ahead, 5 hours ahead, which we didn't do before.
Well, that's crazy. But it works. At the end of the day, there's enough slots and enough way to rotate in enough customers and
you just make
workers to, yeah, okay, good.
That's very impressive. The sales record, that's motivating, I feel like, for a lot of people in the audience. One of the large kind of looming unknowns from my perspective, Edward, in your business is, do stylists want to come back to work? And so have you found struggles in getting folks back to work? Has it been kind of some of the first block in the very first states in Georgia where you struggled a little bit more, but what does that look like?
It's mixed. Same as clients. Most definitely want to come back. We're a social industry, right? That relationship with your hairstylist is usually a somewhat close one. And our stylists are social people. So most of them could not wait to get back in the stores. Clients couldn't wait for them to get back in the stores. Tips have been through the roof for our stylists. And so most of them are great. Some, that last 20 or 25% though, is going to have trouble finding childcare, especially on short notice. May have a legitimate medical situation, a family member with one, where they do have a sometimes perceived fear, but sometimes a very legitimate reason or fear for not being, in close contact with people or out in public or retail environment. And there are some who are enjoying the very aggressive unemployment benefits that have been thrown out there. Whatever your opinion is on that, there's a real impact to that. So for the most part, it's been great. I'd say 75 to 80% of stylists in areas that are reopened are already back, and more are trickling in. But there's a real impact there, and it's definitely a challenge.
Brad, anything to add? Any questions?
No, it's just very, it's wonderful that you guys are leading by example. And it's a very, very difficult thing, but getting your franchisees comfortable and with systems your size is to get everyone on the same page. And, it's like, I know Anthony, we have a couple good friends, actually both you guys, we have friends who are franchisees of both your systems, and I know they had told me they had given out 50 bikes for like cycle bars. But it's showing you the relationships they have with their clients. And same thing with Edward, we were talking about the leadership both of your systems gave, where they felt comfortable opening up again and felt that, even at the darkest moments, they weren't going to go out of business. And I'd like to congratulate both of you, because we personally have friends of ours who are franchisee of both your systems. And, it's a tough thing to do, but it's the comfort level that you guys gave to them, knowing that there is going to be a rainbow at the end of this tunnel. So I know, Ryan, there's a bunch of questions. You want to kind of go through a couple of them?
Yeah. One question, Anthony, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. But
No.
a question submitted by someone that registered: where do wellness brands versus more fitness brands fit into the future of your growth strategy? So are you kind of eyeballing what's going on and strategic planning for for growth outside of this, both within your brands and expanding outward?
Yeah, look, we're we have Stretch Lab, which is a one-on-one stretching concept, which is really more on the wellness side than it is on the quote unquote gym side. I would argue that it's still in the fitness kind of realm, that it helps people be ultimately fit, but it's definitely not a gym. And so those have been reopening kind of along with hair salons and massage and things of that nature. I have 8 brands now. I was told everybody that at some point I would know I had enough kids and I would stop. So You know, for actual kids, for me, that was 2. For brands, that's 8. So, you know, I'm not really out looking at, you know, a 9th or 10th brand as we kind of expand to even be looking at, you know, fitness or wellness. Somebody super smarter than me said that, you know, the X of Xponential stood for 10, and I was going to buy 10, you know, different modalities. And I wish I would have known that. I might have bought 10 just to, you know, sound like that was the plan. But we're not, you know, we're just not out in the market right now acquiring things. You know, there are a lot of people calling us, you know, brands that, you know, that people know that I won't mention that, you know, this is really impacted, and, you know, they're struggling to figure out how to recover in the franchise world, right? Because if you didn't have a strong org chart to begin with, and you got hit with this, it's crippling. You know, if you were really strong and you had a lot of stuff going on, it's still crippling, but you kind of know how to pull out of it, and, you know, continue to lead, and, you know, stuff Brad was talking about. But yeah, we're just, I mean, not even sidestepping the question, but we're not actively out looking at, you know, at fitness or at wellness right now. We're just trying to get what we got back open.
How about
Anthony,
resales? How about resales, Anthony?
Let me say one thing, like Anthony, as Ryan said, happy birthday to me before. One thing I will tell you, you don't do the other 7 brands if you don't stretch. And I've learned that that's the most important thing of all.
That is
Yeah.
it.
Lane just brought up a good point. Inevitably, you're going to have some locations that have to close down. So how are you guys both approaching resales or transfers, and what does your strategy look like on that front? And what do you kind of, what are you seeing in terms of what you might be planning for?
Yeah, I'll kick us off briefly. Fortunately, we see very few closures and not a ton of transfers coming up. Some definitely, but we helped people immediately with cash conservation and got them focused on that. Most of our franchisees got rent deferrals, 80% plus got PPLs. So we're going to be in a good position to not close very many stores at all. Hopefully not any. But in the case where some do close or people do want to transfer for any reason, we created a pre-approval process and an expedited transfer process to make sure we could get those done, you know, almost immediately where they come up. So we expect very minimal closures or transfers, but those that do, we're ready to do it very, very quickly.
Yeah, and same for us. We have seen, you know, very small numbers of people that, you know, even have an intent to not reopen. You know, some of that is going to work itself out, right? As we kind of talked about, I was saying it's very emotional when, you know, what you've worked for goes to nothing overnight. The good news for us is because of the digital product, you know, we didn't have any stores that went to zero. You know, our top 10 stores are still doing $65,000 a month during the pandemic. In the digital world, our top 50 stores are still doing $45,000 a month, and they were doing it with no rent, no labor. So, you know, the free cash flow went up. We actually saw a lot of PPP money that came through, about 80-90%. You know, we're constantly surveying our franchisees and sort of tracking what's happening. You know, our real estate department mobilized to, you know, deal with all the real estate investment trusts across the country to be able to renegotiate people's leases. We're doing percentage rent on a go-forward basis with a lot of our people, so that as we reopen, even if we're on limited capacity, limited schedule, we're not, you know, paying 100% rent, 100% labor, right? So we're doing that. You know, inevitably, you know, at the very end, you know, we're going to sell these to other franchisees in the area. You know, we've never closed a store. It's not my intent to ever close a store. And so, you know, we'll continue to, you know, figure that out. But we have an 8-person franchise sales team on the new side. We have 3 people in franchise resale, robust resale program. You know, we did a couple hundred resales last year. So we know what we're doing in that space. There are franchisees out there that are just straight up opportunistic as well, you know, that are calling us going, hey, I know some people aren't going to open. Let me know if anybody in my area is not going to open, because I want to take them out, you know. And you're kind of like, hey, just wait for the body to get cold before you try and like this let's relax. Same with our private equity investors that we have, been calling up and saying, hey, tell me if there's hot pockets in the areas where I can, so for me, I want to support my original franchisee, that entrepreneur that said, hey, let me go out and get this open. I want him to fight that fight, and I want to support that fight before I, push them into, a resale or transfers or anything like that. So I'd love, first and foremost, everybody that went into this to come out of it and, not have to do a resale or transfer, but we're well equipped to handle that where we need to.
I would like to know if you have any advice so the beauty of having folks on that have resources and that have lots of experience and lots of franchisees is they have resources to put on stuff like this. But as we all know, there's lots of emerging franchisors that are trying to figure it out. Many of them call us, watch these webinars, and view them afterwards. Do you have any advice for folks, that don't have all the resources, that don't have a big resale program? What's the most important thing they should work on, maybe?
Yeah, look, for us, I would say if you're in a smaller franchise system or emerging system, those kind of things, you don't have the cash, the resources. Franchisees still should have been able to, to get PPP money. So, you should have that. You still should be able to, organize some, lease incentives, right? Or some go forward stuff, some lease forgiveness. That all those things, you still should be able to provide that support. I think communication is the biggest piece. Authenticity and integrity are big pieces to make sure you're there and you're a true partner, right? In the franchise sales process, everybody's like, oh, you're a franchise partner. We're good together. It's like, it really needs to be a real marriage, right? That needs to be very authentic. And kind of, how do I dig in with you? Like, you're not in the ditch, we're in the ditch together. Let's figure out how we dig out of the ditch together. And I think if franchisees in any size brand really feel like you're there, you care, you're equipped to help them, not even from a resource side, but from you personally, that there isn't this ivory tower that, you're digging in. I can't tell you how many Dr. Phil moments I've had with franchisees at 3 a.m, 4 a.m, sitting in my closet, over the last 6 to 8 weeks. That's kind of how you earn your wings, right? This isn't you don't get a hold of Anthony thing, even in a big system. Everyone texts me and, we have constant communication. So I just think being there, being available, being a good coach, and getting people through this will get you a long way if you don't necessarily have, the balance sheet or the head count or those kinds of things.
Yeah, dead on. Relationships are free, and either you have them or you don't. It's either authentic or it's not. Communications free or close to free. Anthony's dead on in terms of, whether I had 1 employee or 1 million, I'm still the one doing the webinars. I'm still the one doing the calls. I'm still picking up the phone. I'm still texting. So I think, we have resources, but most of the best stuff we've done has been free. And it's just, being engaged, being out in front, being in contact with people, and having the Dr. Phil moments.
Do you mentor other brands, Edward? Do other brands call you and ask you what you're doing? I know we are, but is it something that happens?
And isn't that what we're here for?
Yeah, I think it is. Anthony, same? Do people call you and ask you what you're doing?
They do. And then, people call me, like my attorneys, and say, hey, we got this other client. Can you help them? I end up helping cookie companies and all sorts of stuff. There's some of the basics of franchising that doesn't matter. Edward could come, step into my desk and probably know 80% of the job, right? There's just some basics to franchising that are franchising in and of itself, systems and processes, that authenticity and integrity that we talk about, that true partnership. Those should be embedded in the values of each of the franchisors regardless. So I do a fair bit of that. I can't bake a cookie to save my life, but I help some of those people, even help recruiter firms that call and say, hey, how do we get into this business, or what do we do? And so I've referred some of those people over to Fishman and said, hey, let these people go make it, whatever it might be. So, I think it's using your network, back and forth to hopefully produce results for those people as they get in the business. I'm a small guy. I'm a made from nothing guy. I want to see the small guy win. That's why I love franchising. You know, I'm not a massive fan of, you know, these large franchisors or franchisee groups that are in there. I'd like to see the little guy borrow money from mom and dad or the SBA or something, and they have no choice but to make it work, or they can't go home on the holidays, right? Like I like that scrappy trench worker entrepreneur, you know, in our system. And so, you know, I'm always still rooting for the little guy.
You know, as you're finding a common theme, you know, as we've done these for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks now, is the ability of, no matter what, the ones that we have talked to, franchisors, is the ability of communication. And as like Anthony said, as Edward said, when you have a franchisee who needs you, the key word here is there's not been a lot of sleep over the last 2 months. Yep. Because you guys are really talking to your franchisees, the comfort level, and knowing that, you know, things are going to get better. But I'm not hiding, you know, call this person, this person. I'm here helping you. You know, when everyone's going through these questions about PPP, what happens about our what happens about our rent, and what should we do? You guys set up protocol for both of them to really help them go through those moments. And that's why we're going to all make this out together. And, you know, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, but I cannot tell you how much we all appreciate all this information you give to everyone out there as our franchise family, because it's so important as we're going through day by day, more and more things are opening. And pretty soon, you know, within the next 4 or 5 weeks, pretty much everyone's going to be open, we hope. Maybe not New York or Pennsylvania, but cross the fingers. And the franchisees are still going to need our help. Yep. Because as they're going through this, there's going to be some moments, but, you know, having the relationships they've developed with you guys is what really helps franchising and what makes this industry wonderful.
Yeah, right on, guys. I don't even want to keep you another second, but you've been really, really generous. You spent time with us the other day, and this has been really fun, strangely enough. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Guys, we really appreciate it.
All right. Bye, guys.
All righty.
Bye.
Talk soon, guys.